Shouts out Big Steve.
Shout out Mikey B. UFC 315 betting breakdown. Let's make some bread on this card. I have some bets. I love this pay-per-view. There was no early tease this week, so I'll be doing a quick recap of last week right now. Speaking of recaps for future early teasers, would you like me to do a betting recap at the start or at the end of the show? All right, let me know now in the chat or in the comments. All right, so do you want me to do my usual recap at the start of the show or at the end of the show? Cool. All right, so let's get into it, right? I lost my ass last week, so that pissed me off. That's why there was no early tease. I needed a break. I needed a mental break. I'm currently in the depresso stage of betting, right? I end up there once every year, like 7 years betting, 2 years full-time. So usually when I'm on a bad streak. So the good news is this is not my first depresso session of this year. I had one in January, had one in February. So this is probably the worst I've ever bet in 7 years, to start a year. We're only in the 5th month, and I'm negative. I'm negative for the year. Essentially, I had, I was up 1,500, and then I lost it all in the first week of May. So, yeah, that's all right. I'm not going to talk too much about it. Again, I don't usually do these recaps on this show. It's mostly the early teas. So let me get into it quickly, and let's move on. Let's move on to bigger and better things, right? On UFC, my main bet was, Gillian Robertson. I wish I smashed that. I went against the noise. I was really happy about that. Misha Tate was my first money line, a second money line. I stayed at it all day. I should have passed. I should have left it for live bet. But basically, the story of my life last couple of weeks, just thinking I can get away with what my gut is screaming. And, yep, D-Rod plus 140. I love that bet. I wish I didn't parlay Bo Nickel and Corey Sandhagen to get even more money. I lost that. And, yeah, then I hit a nice little Corey same-game parlay. Corey to win and Davidson to take him down. That was crazy. Took him down with ease. So broke even there. And then we go to Ryzen, right? So this month I've lost, some bad bets. I lost on Babley in PFL. I lost the boxing bet. And, with the UFC break even, I'm down like 1K, 2 units. I'm like, that's all right, because I had a big bet on Atase Sakuraba, the son of the GOAT Sakuraba, fighting this 44-year-old old man, Daisuke Nakamura, right? He was on a 5-fight losing streak. He kind of looked tough. He didn't look like a warm body, but, he's 5-fight losing streak. And some of these losses are to a 1-1, to, basically a debuting guy in deep, to a guy that's 13-15, right? And some of these guys are finishing him. So he's chinny, he's old. He gets a little bit of good stuff going, and then he just ends up losing, right? And, Sakuraba, I didn't bet on him when he was a massive underdog in his debut in Ryzen against Hiachi. I thought that was a tough fight. And look, he wins. He wins with a mean KO. So I thought, right, he can knock out Nakamura. He can submit him, right? Nakamura's bad takedown defense, even though he's a grappler. And Sakuraba, he's a black belt in judo, and obviously he grapples all the time with his dad, and obviously he's competed on Fight Pass in grappling competitions, and he's never been submitted in the grappling competitions. And I had, I tipped out 3 units, but I had more. I had 1,700 to win 1,000. So I'm like, look, this is fine. This is a lock, a smash spot. I'm going to get my 2 units back, and then I'm going to start the month next week. Great, just from scratch, and we'll have a good May, and it's all good. So Nakamura beats him, right? He ends his 5-fight losing streak. Sakuraba gets taken down. He basically can't get out of mount for the whole round. Round 2, Nakamura's gassed, and Sakuraba's almost looks like he's going to knock him out with every punch he throws, and then he gets hurt by the old man and gets taken down again in mount. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. How does this guy not know how to get out of mount? You're Sakuraba's son, dude. I'm a white belt, and I know how to get out of mount against really good purple belts, brown belts. Like, it's day one stuff, man. It's beginner stuff. Anyway, that loses, and I'm just like, I'm mentally prepared for it. I wasn't thinking, oh, I need this to win. It lost, whatever. And then, I was like, whatever, I'm done for now. I don't have the drive to dig out of a hole, in May, like from a few units down. And then I parlayed Suzuki with Shabulaev, which was stupid. Suzuki's a bum. I should have just put it all on Shabulaev. He's an animal. I had a good line on Bet365 as well. So I'm basically, 1K down on PFL and boxing, and 2K down on Ryzen. As you can see here, I had a bad losing week last week of April, which pissed me off. That dropped my profit to 1,400. Not even 3 units after 4 months. But it doesn't really matter, because profitable month. You have all you need is one big month. You get your year on track, And then I continued that PFL, boxing, UFC, and then really lost my ass on a massive, massive bet on Ryzen. So yeah, that gone from 1,400 up to basically down 1,600. Right, so I'm 3 units down in May, which again, as I said, the worst I've ever bet. And after I've taken my break, I started missing it, and here we are. Right, here we are. What else am I going to do? I'm not going to retire, but it's just it's as I said, in the depresso stage, it's fucking hard to grind when you're down and when you're on a losing streak, and it's a lot of it. It pisses me off. It still pisses me off to go on Twitter. It pisses me off to go on YouTube. Even in the Discord, some people's leans and takes piss me off, but I do enjoy taping. So we're back. So we're back to make money. We're back to get it back, and yeah, 6 units down in May. Plenty of time to make it back. Will we make it back? Let's see. All right, let's get into it. Brad Katona, Bekzat, Almakhan. Interesting fight. This Bekzat guy is good. I see a lot of dudes shitting on him. He's overrated in his loss to Umar, but he's good. He's very good. His regional losses, he only has one actually. His regional losses and his regional losses wins are good. So I don't understand the hate. Katona's not bad. He can probably keep this competitive. I'm not really feeling Katona underdog. He's a slim margins kind of guy. So I have to dig a little bit deep, but it could be accurate. But yeah, let me look at these comments and we'll move on to another fight. Shady, Steven, you are better than that. Step up your game. Shady, I never know what the hell you're talking about, but I love it. I will step up my game. JDM, yes, we'll get to that fight. Iceland farts. Big Steve, since you're a full-time gambler, if you don't mind me asking, what do you do prior to begin a full-time gambler? Oh man, I did many things. I was an artist for a bit. I graduated in 2013 to be a graphic designer. I did a bunch of graphic design jobs. I painted houses for 5 years. I paid for my house with that. I sold cars. I sold door to door. And then I ended up in working for myself as a graphic designer. And that's my current business. And that's what helps when I'm really not feeling gambling. For example, after last week, I just focus on my business because I really neglect it. I neglect my business because watching fights and gambling on fights is so much more fun, right? And it's tax-free here in Australia. So, I've done many things. I had a lot of savings from car sales. I made like $90,000 per year. Plus, when I lost my job because of COVID, I got some government grants. I have an investment. I had a lot of crypto. So, I did a lot of things. But now I call myself an entrepreneur now. All right, let's move on. Aside, Katona round 3 system donation. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Aaron Gilliana, what's up? Aaron, Bukake round 3 TKO. Possible. Iceland farts. Almakhan decision. Possible. You know what? I'm kind of feeling Almakhan inside the distance, right? The under 2.5 rounds. And we'll go through some of these totals together as well. Under 2.5 rounds is $3.40. That's wild. Right, yeah, I know Katona's durable, but Bekzat has finished a lot of guys. As I said, his regional tape's not awful. He's finished a lot of those good guys. Obviously, he dropped Umar, and he's been finished in his one loss via sub. And Brad has a decent sub. He's got a nice guillotine. So maybe that's a side. All right, let's move on. Daniel Santos versus Lee. Right, someone pointed this out when Lee was a massive underdog. I taped it quickly, but it was one of the last things I forced before I watched Ryzen. As soon as my Sakuraba bet on Ryzen lost, I lost all interest in taping fights, and I passed. I passed on Lee at plus 150, whatever it was. So that my mate has a ton of CLB now, and I know Lee well. I bet him. I bet 2 units when my units were $2,000 on Lee at Pick'em against Blake Builder, and I felt super confident about it. So I know the guy well. And, yes, he can probably KO or knock down Santos, but I just left feeling like a shit show fight. Santos is a bit durable. He gets hurt a lot, but he doesn't really get knocked out. And, this is up a featherweight now. Maybe he's more durable at featherweight. And I didn't really like Lee's defense either. So now that it's settled at Pick'em, it kind of feels accurate. It feels like I do not want to rush to retape it. The under 2.5 rounds is not bad. It's barely chalked. Well, Lee is the favorite now. That's crazy to me. It's barely chalked. Let's look at some of these other things. Obviously, Santos has knocked out Castaneda. He was very durable. Could knock out Johnny Munoz. He's got armbars as well. He's got submissions. Jeong Lee. The guy is kind of, he hurt Blake Builder multiple times but couldn't finish him, which was super frustrating. And then he got knocked out by Hyde. Honestly, I'll just play the under here and hope for the best. It's a shit show fight. Speaking of shit show fights, Marc-Andre Barriault versus Bruno Silva. So, another one of these where there's a lot of noise about how washed Bruno is. Kind of reminded me of D-Rod last week. Everyone is playing a washed Santiago Ponzinibbio because supposedly D-Rod looks washed. And then I watched his fight versus Alex Morono, and he didn't look washed at all. He just looked like people were expecting D-Rod to run through Morono because he was minus 200. And because he had some issues early getting Morono's timing, he's supposedly washed now. So, but yeah, that was that's what it feels like. Like I watched Bruno Silva versus his last fight, Ismail Nuriev, and yeah, he lost that fight. Nuriev is good. Nuriev was in the UFC before. He's very explosive, fast, and he mixes in the grappling, which is Bruno Silva's Achilles heel. So it makes sense that he lost that decision, but he didn't really quit in there. He just wasn't there 100%. He's not. I think Bruno Silva's main issue is that he's not present. Right? He's just going from fight to fight. Doesn't really have a game plan. He's a brawler. And on the other side, Marc-Andre Barriault is minus money. He's minus money. He's also 35. He was never that good, even on his win streak. He was almost cut when he first got into UFC. Then they gave him a massive step down in competition. He started winning, but he was never good. His wins at Julian Marquez, Eric Anders recently, but he was never good. And now he's getting knocked out cold by freaking Dustin Stolfitz of all people. So never ever Marc-Andre Barriault especially at chalk. All right. He even had bad body language against Julian Marquez in round 1. And then he came back and knocked him out. So, yeah, no real interest. Bruno Silva or pass. Right. Marc-Andre Barriault, live bet, per usual. Let me see the unders. Honestly, the under 2.5 rounds is not awful. It's not awful. It's chalky. Right. Barriault has come back and, he's finished Julian Marquez. He didn't really finish Eric Anders, but he dropped him a couple of times. Now, the issue here is Bruno Silva has always been durable, right? He kind of got hurt a bunch of times by Shara, survived. He got hurt by Brendan Allen, and then he was submitted. He even got hurt by Chris Weidman. But, he comes back. He even got hurt by GM3. So that's the issue here. He's durable, and you're not really going to see Marc-Andre go for submissions to club and sub. So yeah, doesn't go the distance, minus 200. Maybe that's the side. You got some easy Bruno KO1 upside. And then I reckon you might have some Marc-Andre round 2, round 3. Hopefully he's aggressive. Hopefully he doesn't fight like he fought in the Chris Curtis fight. He had very good movement, stick and move fundamentals in the Chris Curtis fight. And he almost won that fight. Hopefully he doesn't fight like that. But who knows? All right, Navajo Stirling versus Ivan Erslan. Navajo, he's still quite green, this guy. All right, the best guy that he fought, in my opinion, was Philip Latu. And, the guy is, I think Philip Latu is better than Tuko Tokos. Tuko Tokos is a complete bum. And still in round 2, where traditionally Tuko Tokos will slow down, Stirling couldn't get him out of there. He's basically the only guy that couldn't get Tukos out of there via KO. All right, so yeah, I did lose a bit of money there on KO, and he's just one of these city kickboxing sparring guys, leg kick, feint, stick and move, go for grappling when he should be grappling. He kept grappling Tukos, and then he was getting reversed and getting grappled himself. Again, by a gassed Tokos, he was getting grappled. So, yeah, just never really got going. Hurt him in round 1, then did nothing out of that. If he does beat Ivan Erslan, I would say that's his best win, hands down. Ivan Erslan's 33. He's always been chinny. But he's fought some decent guys in KSW, right? This Rafael Haratic, the KSW light heavyweight champ, really a tough win. Bogdan Niko, this Ukrainian kid that was meant to be good, he ran through him. Yeong Cutelaba's, whatever, I thought there was more chance that he lost 30-27 than a split in that fight. And Ibrahim Chugasev, the previous light heavyweight champion, he won 5 rounds with him. But yeah, it's, he is a bit chinny. So that's my issue here. He's a bit chinny and he's given up a lot of size and height. So that's my issue here. But he can crack. And Stirling doesn't really have the best defense. Yeah, it's a bit of a shit show fight. Like, I don't know if I want to be betting. From what I've seen from Navajo Stirling, he hasn't been tested. He hasn't fought anyone good. And yeah, but I'm not really rushing to play Ivan Erslan too. He's just like a low-level guy with power. Let me look at the total. Personally, I see some people saying that Ivan might grapple here, but I don't think that's a good path for him. Personally, I think Ivan should go for the KO. Right, he hits hard. He might even hit harder than Stirling. He should go for the blitz. So the under 2.5 rounds is decent, right? It's better than minus 200. Stirling KO, I get minus money. Disgusting, right? Never again at minus money unless he's fighting a bum after what I've seen against Tokos. I also think he's lucky that he knocked out Latu with that hook in the pocket. Under 1.5 rounds might be the side. Under 1.5 rounds, it gives Ivan's early KO upside to bonk him. Stirling usually goes over, but he has a bunch of unders. Right, again, these are bums in hex. But Ivan Erslan is chinny. He's chinny enough. So it just depends. It depends on Stirling, in my opinion. It depends on both these guys. So it's really hard to know what they're going to do. Alrighty. Let's move on to another shit show fight. Modestas Bukauskas, Yeong Cutelaba. Right, honestly, for me, it's Yeong Cutelaba or pass. Right, he's the only guy with the steamroll upside. Right, as in he can take down Bukauskas, submit him, he can knock him out, he can steamroll him. Otherwise, Bukauskas is probably going to come on late. He has the better cardio, he has the better volume. Like his wins, Tyson Pedro, that was sick, had food poisoning and retired like a fight later. Zach Pauga, that hurt him multiple times, and I thought that was a robbery. I was on Zach, no bias. Got knocked out by Victor Petrino, which one of not many guys to actually be put out by Vito. And then Marcin Prashnia, which was a back and forth war, and Rafael Coquera, which he's a fraud, and Rafael actually cracked him with a couple of 1-2s. So I think he's definitely getting dropped hard if Yeong Cutelaba cracks him. I think Yeong's last two fights, Ivan Erslan and running through Ibo Arslan with his first submission, I think that's looking better. But Yeong's fights are so volatile and they're so unpredictable. Sometimes he wrestles aggressively. Sometimes he chooses to strike. Sometimes he blows his load in round one. Other times he paces himself and loses a decision. Other times he paces himself and he looks good. He has enough cardio to win every round. So who the hell knows, man? I think there's a lot of fights. I already have a few bets. I have a few more leans for other bets. I'm not going to rush this fight in particular because it's super volatile stuff. What are the totals? Wow, this is crazy. Am I seeing this right? Oh, no, I'm not. I'm not seeing it right. My bad. Let me have a look. Iceland farts likes the over 1.5 minus 140. I would rather go the under, man. Again, it's so volatile. Cutelaba for Ivan, who's fighting Navajo Stirling, and dropped him like 3 times in round 1 and didn't finish him. Under 1.5 probably correlates. Bukauskas also has some underrated power, but Cutelaba is way more durable. Yeong round 1 is pretty disgusting. Round 1 sub. Wow, submission is 11. Aaron, round 3. Aaron, ever since Modestas' injury, he's been printing money. My friend trains with him. Bang a fight. Yeah, he's been printing money because they've been giving him freaking, Tyson Pedro, Zach Pauga, Marcin Prashnia, and Rafael Coquera, right? This is a step up, right? This is put up or shut up. And they even gave him Vito Petrino, and he still got knocked out by him. So, alrighty. Bruno, round 1 TKO. That makes sense. That's his last win was a round 1 over Tavares. So, it's possible. It makes too much sense, right? But is Marc-Andre Barriault going to be knocked out 3 times in a row? Like back in the day, that shit used to happen in UFC all the time. Now it's just those obvious things kind of don't happen as much anymore. And I know because I used to print money on them. Alrighty. Jessica Andrade, Jasmine Justavicius. So they're giving Jessica another grappler, which is interesting. And yeah, I mean, I'm not really rushing to parlay Yasmin. If you look at her career since she's lost to Tracy Cortez, which is not a good look. I don't think Tracy Cortez is that great at all. She's fought a lot of girls that you can argue were good matchups. Priscilla, no ground game. Fatima Climb, short notice, upper weight class. Ariana Lipski, no ground game. And Moira Silva, no takedown defense or get-ups. So, and even in those fights, she's the big thing that stuck out to me against Ariane and Moira Silva, taking way too long to shoot, usually at the second part of round 1, right? And you could argue that's good. She's setting up her takedowns. She's not shooting ASAP. But, man, look at Jillian Robertson. Just constant pressure. Don't waste time. Boom, instant takedown. Especially these girls like Moira Buena and Lipski and whatnot. You can maul them. As soon as you take them down, the sooner you get to mauling. There's no why wait. If she gets stuffed once or twice at the end of those rounds, she could lose the round due to damage because she's quite hittable. And that's what happened against Cortez. She lost round 1. She won round 2 because she aggressively grappled. And round 3, Cortez stuffed her a few times and outstruck her again. So I'm not quick to fade Jessica Andrade. I don't want to put Yasmin in a parlay or anything. I think Jessica Andrade has showed that her takedown defense is not awful. She has on top of that, she has get-ups. She's gotten up against Tatiana Suarez multiple times. I think, Suarez also has much better chain wrestling than Yasmin. And, she got up a bunch of times against Aaron, and she got up a bunch of times against Shevchenko as well, who we'll speak about soon enough, right? So she does give up her back, but I don't know. Jasmine is probably just going to hold on to her and ragdoll her. So not saying it's a dog or pass or anything. I'm not going to play Jessica. She's kind of looking a bit washed. But, yeah, nothing I'm really rushing to play. Let's look at the totals. Yasmin, 2 and 3, always popular. They've been printing money too, to be honest. What's her 2 and 3? Yeah, they're not the best prices. She does have a good crucifix, I will say. Good crucifix, and Jessica was ran through by a crucifix by Shevchenko before. Just depends, is Yasmin's on that level? Dogfather, he's already played Yasmin inside the distance and KO. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, who the hell knows? Will it be KO or will it be a sub? Right. Jessica Andrade usually gets KO'd by the crucifix, and then she has a bunch of subs on the record. All right, let's move on. Mike Malott versus Charles Radke. So this is my first play. I got Charles Radke. I didn't really understand this line. I taped a few fights, and I'm like, okay, on the feet right away, there's value in Radke. All right, he's got that death touch. Malott is hittable, and Malott is, could be cheating as well. And yeah, that's it. There's value. So I straight away went into taping the ground game because there must be a reason why Mike Malott is such a big favorite. It must be the ground path. I think he's an elite level jiu-jitsu guy. And he's got some underrated wrestling too. He was mauling Neil Magny, but that means nothing. Neil Magny, in my opinion, was washed for a long time, and he was just winning these fights by the slimmest of margins. Even that fight, he was clearly losing every single round until the last minute. But if Mike Malott was really that good, he would have handled them like Prates or Morales. So the fact that he let Magny make it to round 3 shows me he might not be on that level. But he does have good wrestling. Has a good body lock. He's used that body lock against Adam Fugit and Magny. And, he's hit a nice double leg on Johan Lioness. So I think Malott can take that path. I watched Charles Radke versus Liesma in CFFC. That was a fight where... Piesma, pardon me. That was a fight where he was backpacked and he won a split. And I remember that fight being differently. I thought he was backpacked for 3 rounds. But, he was taken down, had his back taken by Piesma, and he got out and then did some damage. It was competitive. He won round 2 clear. And round 3 again was, he was winning, and then there was a lot of grappling exchanges, got his back taken, and it ended up being a split. Personally, I think Radke has improved a lot since then. That was his first fight at welterweight. Since then, he's fought a bunch of fights at welterweight. He's looked much better. He's got some confidence. Yeah, basically, I didn't want to overthink it. I'm still doing some deep tape. I only have a unit on Radke to almost win 2. It was just a no-brainer. I don't think, Malott will have the better volume. He's got some great kicks. He can go from both stances. And I'm not too hard on him against Traven Giles. In that fight, he didn't really have to get out of the first gear, and he did enough to win. But he still lost the round. He was still 29-28. He was still getting jabbed up by Giles, who is a bum. He's not UFC level. So, personally, I just feel like maybe these guys are on a similar level. They both have finishing upside. I think they're both really good on the ground. And I just don't see how Mike Malott looks minus 200. Right? He could probably finish Radke. Radke has been knocked out twice. He's been hurt to the body. Maybe he can be hurt to the body by one of those kicks by Fugit. Like But like Malott hurt Fugit in his fight. But other than that, I just feel like I'm overthinking it. 1 unit on Charles Radke, let's go. He's got big finishing upside as well. Alrighty, Benoit Saint-Denis, Karl Prepolek. I mean, what to make of this fight? Yeah, I mean, this opened up on Bet Online at like under one round, and I don't understand it. Right? I tape Prepolek's fights outside of the UFC to see what he's been up to. I've bet on him before in the UFC. I bet against him in the UFC, so I know him well, and he's like a durable, well-rounded guy with good boxing, southpaw, and his takedown defense is okay. He has good get-ups, he has good guillotine. So I don't know why that opened up where it opened up. Like, who is Benoit Saint-Denis finished in under half of one round, right? But yeah, it's interesting. He's not a bad fighter, Prepolek, so he's got some power, and Benoit Saint-Denis is hittable. He has a win over Dufour, old mate Prepolek, who is another ape that tries to grapple on the regionals, but that was 4 years ago. So I think Prepolek might have some value on him. Honestly, he might have some value, but the fact that it's on short notice, Benoit Saint-Denis is hittable, but he isn't King Ape. So I don't know. Let's move on. Maybe I'll go deeper. Alrighty, Alexa Grasso versus Natalia Silva. This is my other bet. I locked in 3 units on Silva before the week even started, mainly because that was my gut feel, and I wanted to lock it in before the line gets away, and then just tape it and think about it afterwards. And doing a little bit of tape, my first instinct is let's cash out 1 unit. Let's keep it 2 units max, because obviously Natalia Silva is she's a legend, one of the goats, future goats in my opinion. You can just tell. Her win over Yasmin in the debut is aging like fine wine. She's beat some good girls as well. Jessica Andrade, Viviana Rougeau, beautiful footwork, in and out, elite takedown defense. And she answered some questions against Jessica Andrade. She ate some big bombs, and her chin held up too. Right? She quit against Marina Rodriguez when she was younger on the regionals. But it just shows that she's not the same fighter anymore. And yeah, so it's answered a bit of questions. Obviously, Alexa Grasso, she's had 3 fights versus Valentina, which I've watched, and whatever, you kind of get sick of that matchup, taping it for 3 times. But she's a bit like her coach, Diego Lopez. She's got that really, really bad minute winner, but she has, that volatility. She's got power in her hands, and she also has a really high-level jiu-jitsu game. She's definitely submission over position, and she's hurt Shevchenko, a bunch in the first fight, in the second fight. Nothing really happening for her in the third fight. But the takedown defense is still bad, and why I'm just kind of considering reducing is Silva doesn't really go for takedowns. So if this is on the feet, I still favor Natalia Silva. I just think her volume, her speed, her footwork, minute winning, everything leans with her. But what if Alexa Grasso throws a 1-2, cracks it, does what Jessica Andrade did and actually wobbles or stumbles it. So obviously I'm going to go a little bit deeper. If I have 2 units on it, I'm going to do my due diligence. Also, Natalia Silva, I don't like how she's constantly spinning. We obviously saw how Grasso took Shevchenko's back off a spin and locked in a rear naked choke. So it's kind of like it could be one mistake in the round. There could be one mistake or the fight even. Who knows? Right? Natalia Silva was very close to getting submitted by a triangle. I think it was against Teresa Bleda. I think she was saved by the bell there. Right? I had money on her via KO against Teresa Bleda. So, who knows? There's more things to reevaluate. But right now, I locked it in because I'm not overthinking it, and I'll probably keep some action because I do think Silva is the better fighter than Grasso. Totals, I mean, they're not going to be playable. Maybe play some Grasso submission. It's $15. It's crazy. KO, $15. Wild. Or maybe Shevchenko is just a bit washed. Maybe that's why Grasso keeps hurting her. Who knows? I didn't really speak about the totals in the Mike Malott Charles Radke fight, so let's have a look. Radke KO is also not bad, $4.50. Malott KO, Malott submission, it's pretty disgusting prices. Under 2.5 rounds, $1.64. That could be an option. I do think Radke carries his power late, and obviously, Mike Malott has some round 2 equity. He's hurt and submitted Fugit in round 2, and obviously he can probably be finished at any point by Charles Radke, so that could be another option on the 2.5 rounds. Alrighty, next fight, Jose Aldo versus Amin Zahabi. Interesting fight. Interesting fight. A lot of money is coming on Aldo, and some people might be thinking, Zahabi's on a streak. They're giving him a ranked fighter in Aldo in Canada. An old, maybe potentially washed Aldo, so can get into the rankings. But honestly, I feel like this is like a cheeky one from the UFC, thinking here, Aldo, have a bounce back with a 37-year-old Amin Zahabi, right? So honestly, I would rather play Aldo at minus 200, right, rather than Zahabi. Zahabi is quite good. He's underrated. He's quite smart. He has good IQ, and he just shuts down fighters. He shut down David Basharat. He kind of goaded him into coming with his hands low, and he kept countering. It was 1-1 going into the third. So his path is basically a split, shutting down Jose, maybe grappling. But he could probably do it because he's smart, and he's got, his brother Zahabi in his for us in his corner, who's also smart. So he'll probably try that. He'll probably do it. But when you watch Jose Aldo, man, his last fight against Mario Bautista, man, he's still good. Man, he's still fighting ranked opposition. He ran through Jonathan Martinez. He arguably should have beat Mario Bautista. He's still explosive, athletic. His takedown defense is still elite. He's cracking. He's got power. He still looks like an elite fighter. When you look at his bantamweight run, his only bad loss is Marlon Moraes, which again, split decision. People argue that he should have won, and that was his first fight at bantamweight. No shame in losing to Peter Yan, especially in the championship rounds. He won the early rounds, and then he's just rinsing dudes like Vera, Munoz, Rob Font, right, Jonathan Martinez. So this guy is still a ranked fighter, and Ayman Zahabi is only 1 year younger than him. Like beating Pedro Munoz, who's a punching bag, who's probably retired now, or cut, means nothing. All right. Richie Lang, Ricky Tercios, Draco Rodriguez, all bums, right? But minus 200 in Canada, I'm not too sure. I'd rather lay the chalk on Aldo, honestly. If I was going to play Zahabi, it would be like split decision or decision prop. He does hit hard, but I think Aldo is still incredibly durable. And I don't think Zahabi is even going to do anything to gas out Jose Aldo, right? Aldo can gas, but that Mario Bautista fight was really high paced, and he was still throwing in round 3. So yeah, Aldo will pass for me. What do we got for comments, and then we'll finish up with the co-main and the main. Aaron, Grasso takedown from a back kick. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. JDN, yeah, whatever. Bet on us and you'll make easy money. We are rocking, subbing Belal, calling out Islam. All right. Dogfather, Aldo KO. I could see it. Just need to evaluate how bad is Ayman's chin. Big Bird. Hey, Steve, I have a friend of mine that could use some branding work. His name is Diver Pro Gambler. Mind if I put you two in touch? Yeah, sure, why not? Look at the names Aldo has lost to. Imagine if Zahabi is on the list. Yeah, well, everyone is saying that, but it would be so MMA that was Aldo to lose that fight. And if he does lose, it will be a split decision as well. And it's probably going to be a robbery, just to rub it in all the fans of Aldo. Now, Aldo is one of my favorites. So it will be typical. All right, Valentina Shevchenko, Manon Fior. Now, this fight was a pick'em, a little bit of money on Fior. She's the favorite now, $1.66 average. And yeah, sure, I get it. She's younger, she's streaking. Well, barely younger. She's 35 versus 37. And, taping some of the fights, honestly, I don't think she's beaten anyone even close on the level of Valentina Shevchenko. Her last fight against Erin Blanchfield, I played her there as a plus 150 underdog, and I've been trying to fade Erin for a bit. I'm aware that she has a bunch of weaknesses, even though she's good. And Fiora finally exposed it, and I was able to cash in my fade. But Valentina, a complete different level in terms of physicality. She's a kickboxer, but she really separates when she takes girls down. And yeah, I know Manon, when she has been taken down, she's popped straight back up. But what if Valentina takes you down? She has that crucifix. She has much better control. She took down Andrade like 5 times in round 1 and round 2 until she finally locked in that crucifix. Erin nowhere near on the same level. I know who else took her down. That Maya took her down and she popped up. So yeah, a minus money in a 5-rounder. Like I'm not feeling it. Fiora's mouth is open. A couple of rounds in as well. So I'm not sure about the cardio. Valentina can keep it competitive striking. She's really good at feinting and making reads. And she also has the grappling upside to fall back on. Like, what is Manon's plan B? Like, you would think a world-class striker, Valentina, can make adjustments to a spamming side kick to the body and, karate kias. You would think that, right? So, yeah, I guess it's Valentina or pass, but it just screams really, really competitive, close 5-round fight. And I don't have an edge currently, so let's move on. All right, Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Lena. Right, this is the most exciting fight, despite Belal being in here. Yeah, so I liked Jack Della from the get-go weeks ago, and I didn't get around. I was taping fights bit by bit. I taped his Gilbert Burns, then his Basil Hafez, and another guy. He can be taken down, but he's a great scrambler. In my opinion, Jack Della is an elite scrambler. I love his Navi rolls. I love his judo throws. And, he's going to fight for your money. He's going to come forward. He's got all the finishing upside, rips the body, good power, good chin. And it's just, the only thing stopping me right now is that the whole world is obviously on Jack Della. And obviously, the line has moved a bit. It's not as big anymore. And the fact that Belal has really good IQ, and is a weasel. So he's been rocked many, many times. He's been knocked out a bunch of times, by one punch from Luque originally, obviously by Jaban. He's been rocked a bunch by Jeff Neal, by Luque in round 3 in the rematch. And then, again, his wins are not that impressive. Yes, he's the champ. He's the deserving champion. But this, I feel like he's a previous washed generation champion, right? His run consists of washed Stephen Thompson, washed Damian Maia, washed Vicente Luque, washed Gilbert Burns, and washed Leon Edwards, right? If they gave him a washed Usman and washed Kobe Covington, I still think he would beat him. But I think even Prates doesn't beat him. He doesn't beat Prates. I don't think he beats Shavkat. I think Ian Gary beats Belal Muhammad. So that's where I'm at. And I think even Jack Della might beat him. So, yeah, this is a guy that's getting hurt by everyone. So it's going to be a damage versus control. I haven't locked it in yet because, again, Belal has good cardio, good IQ. Sometimes he pressures, which is what he did to Leon, which was smart. Other times when he's fighting a pressure striker like Luque, he's constantly on the back foot, right? Using good footwork and evasiveness. And, Jack Della's he might struggle to corner him against the cage. And obviously Belal's going to be running, pulling him into takedowns. So, yeah, a few things to consider, but it's a dog or pass for me. Jack Della, I bet him big against Gilbert Burns. That was a little bit sweaty. Obviously, he broke his arm, but he still found the KO. I don't think Belal's as cheating as Gilbert Burns. I think their wrestling is pretty compatible. Gilbert Burns' wrestling is really good, but he also has way better jiu-jitsu. Right, Belal goes to the back. I don't think Jack Maddalena will have any issues scrambling out of Belal's back takes, and he'll get up, and then it's, again, pressure and who does more damage. So, yeah, dog or pass. I'm not going to bang on too much about it. That's where we're at. In terms of bets, let's quickly go over it, go over the leans, and get out of here. There's KSW this week. I'm going to focus all my attention on KSW now. My favorite promotion, KSW, UFC, 6 units to make back this month. Let's see what we can do. Brad Katona, Bekzat, right? No strong reads. Maybe some unders. Santos Lee feels a pick 'em, maybe the under. Barriault, Silva, Barriault live, Silva or the unders instead. Stirling, Erslan, maybe the under here too. That's probably the best thing I'm feeling. Bukauskas, Cutelaba, I'm honestly feeling Cutelaba, but it's just such a volatile fight. And you can always live bet Bukauskas, so there's that. Jessica Andrade, Jasmine, nothing really that I'm interested in. I have 1 unit on Charles Radke, $2.90 plus 190. Prepalag, Saint Denis, nothing. I have 3 units on Natalia Silva. I should probably exercise some discipline and reduce that to 2 units. Jose Aldo, Zahabi. For me, it's Aldo or pass. Let's go the distance. Let me have a look there. Go the distance. Over. Wow, it's so chalky, man. So chalky. Yep, nothing there. Valentina, Manon Fior. I don't want to say dog or pass. I don't see an edge right now. And Belal Muhammad, Jack Della Mato. Yeah, Jack Della or pass. Alrighty, that's it. No one has said, do you prefer the recap at the start or at the end of the video? Let me know. Write it in the comments if you haven't said it here. And yeah. Also leave your favorite bet. And peace out. Thanks for listening.